There's a reason God hasn't rushed your breakthrough. He's not ignoring you. He's investing in you. Every delay is loaded with design. Every struggle is shaping your strength. Every silent season is a setup for a loud victory. You see, progress doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes progress looks like endurance. Sometimes progress is staying still when everything in you wants to run. Sometimes progress is choosing faith when your feelings are screaming quit. Don't curse the process. It's proof that God hasn't given up on you. He's molding you in the fire, stretching you in the waiting, refining you in the pressure. Because destiny requires durability. Patience is not delay. It's divine preparation. We live in a world that glorifies speed, instant results, instant answers, instant success. Everything around us screams, now. But God does not operate on man's clock. His timing is not rushed by human urgency. What we often call a delay, heaven calls development. What feels like a pause in our plans is often the precision of his purpose at work. Patience is not punishment. It's the proving ground of faith. When God gives you a vision, he doesn't hand it to you finished. He hands it to you formless. It comes wrapped in waiting, in uncertainty, in seasons where you can't see how it will all come together. And in that waiting, God is not withholding. He's working. He's preparing you for what he prepared for you. Because sometimes the promise is ready, but the person isn't. So God stretches time not to frustrate you, but to fit you for what's coming. Every great destiny demands preparation. David was anointed as king, but he didn't sit on the throne immediately. He went back to tending sheep, fighting lions and bears. Not because God forgot his promise, but because David needed development. The patience of that season built the strength, humility, and discipline required for his kingship. If David had rushed ahead of God, he would have had the crown without the character. That's what happens when we confuse delay with denial. We panic, thinking God has forgotten, when in reality, he's protecting. He knows that early success without solid roots becomes short-lived glory. He knows that blessings gained too soon can become burdens too heavy to carry. So he slows the process to strengthen the foundation. Every delay has divine intention. Patience is not sitting still doing nothing. It's trusting God while doing what you can, with what you have, where you are. It's obedience under pressure. It's learning to move when he says move, and wait when he says wait. Patience is an act of warfare, a declaration that I will not be driven by fear or frustration, but by faith. When you learn to wait well, you show heaven you're mature enough to handle what you've been praying for. There's a difference between waiting with anxiety and waiting with anticipation. Anxiety questions God's faithfulness. Will he ever come through? Anticipation believes he's already working. It's only a matter of time. The posture of your waiting determines the power of your breakthrough. Many people miss divine timing because they grow weary and walk away right before God opens the door. Patience trains you to stay in position. It molds your attitude while God moves in the unseen. It silences the noise of comparison, because when you truly trust his timing, you stop measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. You realize that your story is customized, and every chapter, even the slow ones, is necessary for your growth. The delay doesn't mean you're behind. It means God is aligning the right people, the right opportunities, and the right timing to release what he promised. Think of a seed buried in the ground. To the casual observer, it looks like nothing is happening. But beneath the soil, The seed is dying to its old form and transforming into something new. Roots are being established before the plant ever breaks the surface. That's patience, the unseen phase of progress. And if you dig up the seed too soon because you don't see results, you destroy what could have grown. The same is true for your destiny. Don't uproot your process because it feels hidden. What's developing in silence will be revealed in strength. In God's economy, waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. They are classrooms where you learn endurance, dependence, and trust. You learn that faith isn't proven when everything works. It's proven when nothing seems to work and you still believe. You learn that strength isn't built in comfort. It's built in consistency. You learn that maturity is not about how fast you move, but how long you can stay faithful. Sometimes patience feels painful because it confronts your need for control. You can't dictate the timeline. You can't predict the outcome, and that makes the flesh uncomfortable. But it's in that discomfort that surrender is formed. God isn't just preparing the blessing. He's preparing you to handle the blessing. Because if the door opens before you're ready, what was meant to bless you could break you. The truth is, divine preparation looks like divine delay. God will hide you while He heals you. He will pause your progress to protect your potential. He will keep you in obscurity until your character can sustain exposure. The longer the wait, the greater the weight of the purpose. Some doors take longer to open because what's on the other side requires deeper roots. You may be in a season right now where it feels like everything is standing still. You're doing what you can, praying, believing, showing up, but the results aren't visible. Let me remind you, God is not still. He's working behind the curtain, aligning every piece, orchestrating every step. Patience allows you to stay in sync with His rhythm. If you rush ahead, you'll miss divine timing. But if you wait with faith, you'll walk right into destiny when it's ripe. When you truly grasp that patience is divine preparation, you stop asking, "Why is this taking so long?" and start asking, "What is God teaching me here?" Because every waiting season holds a lesson that equips you for the next level. Maybe He's teaching you discipline, to stay consistent even when it's dull. Maybe He's teaching you trust, to lean on Him when nothing makes sense. Maybe He's teaching you gratitude, to appreciate small beginnings before greater doors open. So don't despise the delay. Don't resent the process. Embrace it. Thank God for it. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that what felt like a detour was actually divine direction. What felt like a setback was setup. What felt like stillness was strategy. God is not in a hurry because He's eternal. He sees the full picture. He knows that sometimes the longer route builds the stronger vessel, and He would rather make you ready than make you famous. He would rather give you endurance than instant elevation, because purpose without patience produces pride, and pride cannot power for long. So breathe, rest, trust. When you walk with God, delay is not denial, it's divine design. Patience is not a passive waiting, it's an active preparation. It's God's way of saying, "I'm not done shaping you yet," because when the moment comes, when the promise finally unfolds, you won't just receive it, you'll be ready for it. And that's when you'll understand patience was never a setback. It was the secret strategy of heaven preparing you for destiny. The process refines what the promise requires. Every promise God gives comes with a process that shapes you into the kind of person who can handle what He promised. Many people celebrate the promise, but they struggle through the process. They shout over the prophecy, but grow silent in the preparation. Yet the truth remains. Without the process, the promise cannot stand. The process is not punishment, it's refinement. It's the divine method by which God purifies your motives, strengthens your faith, and molds your character to carry the weight of what He has spoken. You can't receive a royal promise with a reckless spirit. God knows that premature promotion is dangerous. If He gives you everything too early, it can destroy you. So before He hands you the blessing, He builds you into the person who can bear it. The promise reveals what's possible, but the process reveals what's necessary. Every test, every delay, every disappointment you face in the process is God's way of preparing you to sustain what He intends to deliver. Think about gold in the furnace. It doesn't become pure just because it's valuable. It becomes valuable because it's purified. The heat removes the impurities, the pressure reveals the authenticity, and the fire proves its worth. Likewise, God places His people in seasons of refining, not to burn them out, but to bring the best out. The process doesn't destroy you, it defines you. It burns away pride, impatience, and fear until what remains is strength, faith, and endurance. The process is where God reveals the difference between what you want and what you're ever ready for. You may want success, but are you ready for responsibility? You may want influence, but are you prepared for isolation? You may want abundance, but can you handle stewardship? The process answers those questions long before the promise arrives. It stretches you to grow beyond your comfort zone. It teaches you discipline when doors don't open easily. It builds your consistency when applause fades, because what you build in the dark will sustain you in the light. Every person God has ever used greatly went through a refining process. Joseph had a dream that he would rule, but before he could wear the robe of authority, he had to wear the chains of slavery. He was betrayed, falsely accused, and forgotten. Yet every painful step was preparing him for the palace. The process was harsh, but it was holy. It built in Joseph the resilience and wisdom he needed to rule with compassion instead of arrogance. The promise didn't make him powerful. The process did. Moses carried the promise of deliverance for his people, but he spent 40 years in the wilderness learning humility. The wilderness became his classroom, the sheep his congregation, and silence his sermon. It was there that he learned obedience and patience, qualities essential for leading millions. Without the process, Moses would have delivered Israel with pride instead of purpose. God had to refine his heart before he could release his hand to perform miracles. Even Jesus went through a process. Before he stepped into public ministry, he spent 30 years in obscurity. He learned obedience, discipline, and submission. He was tested in the wilderness before he taught in the temple. If the Son of God himself submitted to a process before the fulfillment of his purpose, how much more do we need to embrace ours? The process will always test what you believe. It will challenge your patience, question your faith, and confront your motives. When God gives you a promise, it's easy to have faith in the beginning, when everything feels fresh and exciting. But as time passes, when circumstances seem to contradict the word God spoke, that's when the process begins to refine your faith. The promise is not there to make you comfortable, it's there to make you consistent. Many people want the product without the process, the crown without the cross, the success without the struggle. But what you skip in process, you lose in power. Every shortcut steals something from your spirit. The things that last are the things that took time, because time tests truth. Anything that grows too fast without roots will wither in the storm. That's why God will never give you something your character can't carry. The process builds your root system so that when the promise blossoms, you can withstand the weight of it. The process refines your perspective. When you're walking through difficulty, you begin to see life differently. You learn to appreciate small victories. You learn to depend on God instead of people. You learn to pray, not for escape, but for endurance. The very challenges that frustrate you are the tools God uses to form you. You begin to realize that what you thought was a detour was actually divine direction. God was never trying to deny you. He was trying to develop you. You may be in a refining season right now, a place where it feels like God is stretching you beyond your limit, stripping away comfort, or closing doors you thought were meant for you. Don't mistake this for rejection. Refinement feels like loss because God is removing what can't go with you. Every relationship that fades, every opportunity that passes, every situation that ends, it's part of the fire that reveals what's real. The process doesn't take from you, it trains you. When you understand this, you stop praying for God to remove the process and start praying for Him to reveal the purpose in it. You begin to see that the waiting is not wasted. Every tear, every trial, every quiet night when you wanted to give up, it all becomes part of your training. The process gives your promise credibility. It makes your story believable. It turns your pain into wisdom and your endurance into testimony. One day, when you step into the fulfillment of what God promised, you'll look back and realize that the process was not your enemy. It was your ally. It was preparing you for this very moment. The struggle taught you how to fight. The waiting taught you how to worship. The loss taught you how to lean on God. Without those seasons, you would not have the strength to sustain the blessing now in your hands. That's why when you see someone walking in their promise, don't envy their position. Respect their process. You don't know the nights they cried, the sacrifices they made, the prayers they prayed when no one was watching. Every public victory is backed by a private process. You cannot carry another person's crown without first carrying your own cross. The process refines you because the promise requires purity. It's not about being perfect. It's about being prepared. God refines your attitude so your anointing won't be corrupted. He refines your humility so your success won't consume you. He refines your gratitude so you'll never forget who brought you there. Every refinement is protection in disguise. So if you're in the fire right now, stay there until the work is done. Don't rush out of the furnace before the impurities are gone. The same fire that feels painful today is producing power for tomorrow. You are being forged for something greater. Every challenge is shaping you into a vessel strong enough to pour out what God has placed within you. When the time comes and the promise unfolds, you'll carry it differently because of the process. You'll speak with wisdom instead of arrogance. You'll lead with empathy instead of ego. You'll give with gratitude instead of greed. The process has a way of softening your heart while strengthening your hands. And when you finally stand in the place God showed you long ago, you'll understand. The process didn't delay the promise. The process defined it. So don't run from the refining. Don't curse the waiting. Embrace it. Every moment you stay faithful in the fire, you're becoming who the promise needs you to be. The process refines what the promise requires, and when refinement is complete, The fulfillment is unstoppable. Waiting seasons reveal your true strength. It's easy to feel strong when life moves according to your plan. When doors open quickly, prayers are answered swiftly, and everything feels like it's working in your favor. But true strength isn't revealed in seasons of success. It's revealed in seasons of silence. It's not tested when you're in motion, but when you're made to wait. Waiting exposes what rushing hides. It strips away the illusion of control and confronts the depth of your faith. It's in the waiting room of life where God separates those who are simply excited from those who are truly equipped. Waiting is uncomfortable because it humbles you. It reminds you that your timeline isn't God's timeline. It teaches you that you can't manipulate divine timing through effort or emotion. No amount of striving can speed up what heaven has scheduled. Waiting reveals whether you're committed to God's promise or just addicted to progress. It's one thing to trust Him when you see movement, but can you trust Him when you don't? Can you stay faithful when the door remains closed? The answer is delayed, and the path ahead seems uncertain. That's where real strength is forged. Not in the moment of breakthrough, but in the moments of stillness before it. True strength doesn't always look like shouting in victory. Sometimes it looks like standing in silence. It's the quiet courage to keep praying, even when heaven feels unresponsive. It's the persistence to keep sowing seeds when the soil shows no sign of growth. It's choosing gratitude when you're surrounded by uncertainty. Waiting teaches you endurance, and endurance births maturity. Strength is not how loud you can declare your faith, but how long you can live it when everything around you contradicts it. When God allows a waiting season, He's not punishing you. He's preparing you. He's using the delay to deepen your dependency on Him. Because sometimes we trust more in His provision than His presence. We trust the miracle more than the Maker. So He withholds the visible to strengthen the invisible. Waiting pulls you into deeper intimacy with God. It forces you to rely not on what you can see, but on what you believe. And it's in that space that faith stops being theory and becomes truth. Think of the eagle. When a storm approaches, smaller birds flee to find shelter. But the eagle flies into the storm. The winds that terrify others become the lift that elevates the eagle higher. The eagle's strength isn't proven on calm days. It's revealed in the storm. In the same way, your waiting season isn't meant to weaken you. It's meant to show you how strong you really are. The pressure, the uncertainty, the stillness, all of it is designed to awaken the endurance that was sleeping inside you. You never know how strong your spirit is until you've had to trust God in the dark. Waiting also reveals what you worship. When your plans are paused, what do you cling to? Do you still seek God or do you seek escape? Do you still serve with excellence or do you slack in discouragement? Do you still give love and believe or do you let bitterness take root? Strength is not just the ability to survive the wait, but the ability to stay right-hearted in it. God is not just watching how long you'll wait. He's watching how you'll wait. The strength He's building in you is not physical. It's spiritual. It's the kind that refuses to quit, even when feelings say otherwise. David understood this kind of strength. He was anointed to be king, but he had to wait years before wearing the crown. During that time, he served under Saul, the very man who tried to kill him. Yet David didn't fight for the throne. He waited for God to place him there. That's strength. Restraint under pressure. Humility under injustice. Faith under delay. The waiting season refined David's character so that when he finally became king, he ruled with wisdom instead of pride. Had he forced the promise, he might have lost the purity that made him God's chosen. Waiting will always challenge your emotions. You'll feel restless, overlooked, forgotten. But those emotions don't define you. They reveal you. They show you the parts of your faith that still need fortifying. Every time you choose to stay patient instead of panicked, every time you choose to pray instead of complain, every time you choose to trust instead of control, you grow stronger. Strength is developed one surrender at a time. There is a hidden power in waiting, a quiet transformation that happens beneath the surface. When you wait well, your roots go deeper. You start to realize that your worth isn't tied to speed, success, or visible progress. You stop living for outcomes and start living from obedience. The waiting season teaches you that strength is not about how fast you can go, but how long you can stand. Sometimes God will delay your next step, not because He's withholding something from you, but because He's revealing something in you. Waiting uncovers weaknesses that success would conceal. It exposes impatience, pride, or fear that could sabotage your future. It's in the waiting that God trains your heart to handle the weight of what's coming. Because if you can't endure the waiting, you won't survive the winning. You see, waiting seasons are God's strength, training ground. Every unanswered prayer, every delayed opportunity, every not yet from heaven is resistance, and resistance builds strength. Just like a muscle grows by pushing against pressure, your spirit grows by pushing against waiting. Every moment you stay faithful in stillness, you are developing divine endurance. And endurance is what separates those who start strong from those who have finished strong. When the time is right, God always moves suddenly. But before that moment, there's always a long stretch of silence. That silence is not absence, it's setup. God is not slow. He's strategic. He's aligning people, preparing places, and positioning you. And while He's doing that, He's teaching you how to hold peace in the middle of pause. Because strength isn't just about movement. It's about maintaining stability when everything seems still. Waiting also teaches you gratitude. When you've had to wait for something, you appreciate it differently once it arrives. What comes easy is often taken for granted, but what comes after endurance becomes sacred. Waiting seasons make you sensitive to God's timing and thankful for His faithfulness. When the breakthrough comes, you'll know it wasn't luck. It was God. You'll see that the waiting didn't weaken you. It refined you. So if you're in a waiting season right now, unsure of when things will change, uncertain of what God is doing, hold steady. Strength is being built in the silence. What feels like stagnation is actually preparation. You're learning to trust beyond sight, to stand beyond feelings, to believe beyond evidence. Every tear, every prayer, every quiet act of obedience is a rep in the gym of your spirit. You're growing stronger, wiser, and more grounded than you realize. Don't mistake waiting for weakness. Waiting requires courage. It takes bravery to hold on when it would be easier to walk away. It takes faith to keep believing when it looks like nothing's working. It takes maturity to rest when your mind wants to rush. The waiting season is not a test of time, it's a test of trust. One day, when your waiting ends and the promise unfolds, you'll understand why it had to take this long. You'll realize that God was not making you wait for the blessing. He was using the waiting to make out of you. Every lesson, every heartbreak, every delay built a strength in you that instant answers never could. The waiting revealed your faith, your endurance, your true foundation. And when the moment comes, you'll walk into it not weary but ready. Because waiting seasons reveal your true strength. The kind that doesn't waver when life does, the kind that endures when nothing makes sense, the kind that stands still and says, I may not see it yet, but I know my God is working. That's not weakness. That's power. That's the kind of strength only waiting can build. Progress is often hidden in perseverance. We live in a culture that celebrates visible success. Promotions, awards, followers, milestones. But heaven measures progress differently. God doesn't always show you movement on the outside because He's building maturity on the inside. The truth is, most of your progress won't look like progress at all. It'll look like faithfulness, repetition, endurance, and doing the right thing day after day when nothing seems to change. Progress is often disguised as perseverance. It's not the big leaps that prove you're growing. It's the small, unseen steps you keep taking when no one claps for you. When you're walking through a long season of waiting, loss, or uncertainty, it's easy to assume you're stuck. You look at your life and think, I'm not moving forward, I'm just surviving. But survival is progress when you refuse to quit. The strength to get up again, to believe again, to pray again. That's what heaven calls growth. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't the door that opens, it's the person who keeps knocking. Perseverance is progress in disguise because it transforms you from the inside out. God often hides your progress to protect your purpose. If you could see everything He's building behind the scenes, you might rush ahead or take credit for what's still unfinished. So He lets you walk by faith, not sight. He teaches you to trust that forward motion doesn't always feel like motion. Just because you can't see the fruit yet doesn't mean the roots aren't growing. Real growth happens underground. Think about how a tree grows. When a seed is planted, it doesn't immediately break through the soil. The first thing it does is build a root system. It digs deep, unseen, silent, and hidden. For weeks or months, nothing appears to be happening, but beneath the surface, life is expanding. The roots are anchoring, strengthening, and preparing to support what's about to rise. That's how God grows you. Your perseverance is building roots, so when the blessing finally blooms, you'll be strong enough to sustain it. Every season of perseverance is a classroom where God teaches endurance, humility, and consistency. When you're forced to wait, you learn how to trust. When you're challenged, you learn how to pray. When you're rejected, you learn how to rely on God instead of people. Progress isn't measured by speed, it's measured by surrender. The more you persevere through difficulty, the more you develop the kind of faith that doesn't break under pressure. We often want God to move quickly, but He's not raising sprinters. He's raising marathoners. Sprinters burn out after a short distance, but marathoners pace themselves for the long run. Perseverance builds spiritual stamina. It teaches you how to keep believing, even when the results are delayed. You learn that maturity is not about getting what you want fast. It's about growing strong enough to handle it when it finally arrives. Sometimes you'll pray for breakthrough, but instead of removing the challenge, God gives you the grace to endure it. That's progress. He's strengthening your spirit muscles. You may not see visible change, but something inside you is being forged. A deeper trust, a steadier faith, a quiet confidence that can't be shaken. Progress is not always about changing your circumstances. Sometimes it's about changing you. Look at the life of Job. He lost everything: his wealth, his health, his family. Yet he refused to curse God. He didn't see progress, he only saw pain. But in his perseverance, he was being purified. His faith was being refined. His endurance became a testimony that still speaks today. Job's story proves that progress is not always visible, but perseverance always produces something eternal. Perseverance also protects your promise. Every time you endure when it would be easier to escape, you prove that your character is greater than your comfort. God can trust a person who stays faithful under fire. When you keep doing what's right in difficult seasons, you show heaven that you're ready for elevation. Because if you can't be consistent in the dark, you won't stay humble in the light. Perseverance keeps you grounded while God lifts you higher. There will be days when it feels like nothing is working, when your prayers seem unanswered, your dreams delayed, and your heart discouraged. But that's where perseverance becomes power. Every not yet builds resilience. Every setback becomes setup. Every disappointment strengthens your dependence. The longer you hold on, the stronger you become. Perseverance turns pain into purpose. It molds you into someone unshakable, someone who can't be broken by circumstances because they've learned how to trust beyond them. Progress is often quiet. You won't always have evidence to show others. People might not understand your faithfulness. They might think you're wasting your time. But God sees the nights you stayed up praying. He sees the times you chose obedience over comfort. He sees the tears you cried and still showed up anyway. Every hidden act of perseverance is a brick in the foundation of your destiny. You might feel overlooked right now, but you're not forgotten. You might feel stagnant, but you're being strengthened. You might feel weary, but you're being welded into something unbreakable. What you call stillness, God calls shaping. The process may be slow, but it's sure. Every time you take another step, even if it's small, you're proving the enemy wrong. You're showing that your faith isn't fragile. It's fierce. Think about a sculptor shaping a masterpiece. From the outside, it may seem like he's just chipping away, striking the same stone over and over. But with every strike, the form becomes clearer. That's what perseverance looks like. God keeps working on you, refining you, and removing what doesn't belong. The progress may look painful, but the result is purposeful. One day, when the masterpiece is revealed, you'll realize that every strike was shaping your strength. Perseverance teaches you to find beauty in process. It teaches you to stop measuring progress by visible change and start measuring it by inner transformation. You realize that every day you don't quit, you win. Every day you stay faithful, you move forward. Every time you get up after falling, you take ground. The progress might not show up in numbers or applause, but it shows up in your heart, in how you love, forgive, and believe through difficulty. There's a sacred power in refusing to give up. That's where faith becomes fire. That's where hope becomes habit. Perseverance is not glamorous, but it's glorious. It's what separates those who start with excitement from those who finish with endurance. Many people dream big, but few are willing to keep walking when the dream takes longer than expected. The ones who persevere become the ones who see promise fulfilled. So if you're in a place where nothing seems to be changing, don't despise it. Every step you take in faith is progress. Every day you keep moving forward, even if you can't see the outcome, you're advancing in ways that matter most. Heaven applauds the heart that endures. God honors the one who stays steady when life feels uncertain. The road may be long, but the reward is lasting. Progress is not always visible, but it's always happening. You are not who you used to be. You may not be where you want to be yet, but you're further than you were. Growth is taking place in the unseen. Maturity is being formed in the waiting, and strength is rising from your struggle. One day, when the promise unfolds, you'll realize that every moment you persevered was a step forward. So keep walking. Keep believing. Keep enduring. Even when it feels slow, even when it feels hidden, you're moving. Because progress isn't proven by pace, it's proven by perseverance. And what God is building through your endurance will last far longer than anything that came easy. God uses pressure to produce purpose. Pressure is one of the greatest tools God uses to shape destiny. It is the invisible hand of heaven that pushes you out of comfort and into calling. When life feels heavy, when the weight of waiting, responsibility, or pain seems unbearable, it's not because God is punishing you. It's because He's preparing you. The greater the purpose on your life, the greater the pressure that will surround it. Diamonds are only formed under intense pressure, and so are destinies. God doesn't waste pressure. He uses it to bring out what He placed within you. Pressure has a way of revealing the real you. When everything is easy, anyone can smile, worship, or believe. But when life tightens, when resources are low and answers are delayed, that's when what's truly inside you begins to surface. Pressure strips away the pretense and reveals your core. It exposes weaknesses, reveals motives, and purifies intentions. God applies pressure not to break you, but to make you authentic. It's through the squeezing that your true strength, faith, and endurance are exposed. Every person in Scripture who carried great purpose walked through great pressure. Joseph was pressured in the pit, in slavery, and in prison before he ever reached the palace. Moses was pressured by rejection and responsibility before leading Israel. David was pressured by persecution before sitting on the throne. Jesus himself faced the ultimate pressure in Gethsemane, where his sweat became drops of blood. Yet, in that place of agony, he found alignment. Not my will, but yours be done. Pressure doesn't just reveal who you are, it refines who you're becoming. When you're under pressure, you start to see the limits of your own strength. That's when you learn dependency. That's when prayer becomes more than words. It becomes your breath. That's when faith stops being a Sunday phrase and turns into your daily posture. God allows pressure to detach you from false security. He knows that as long as you depend on your own strength, you'll never tap into His. Pressure teaches you that your power isn't enough, but His grace is. Pressure also separates passion from potential. It's easy to be passionate about purpose when everything feels inspiring, but pressure tests whether that passion is rooted in emotion or in conviction. The dream looks beautiful until it demands sacrifice. The calling feels exciting until it costs you comfort. That's when God turns up the pressure to see if your yes was real. Because purpose is not proven in moments of inspiration, it's proven in moments of intensity. The fire of pressure refines your why. There's a kind of growth that only happens under weight. You can't develop spiritual strength without resistance. Every challenge, every setback, every disappointment adds pressure, and that pressure builds endurance. Just like muscles grow when pushed against weight, your spirit grows when pressed by trials. Without resistance, there's no resilience. Without challenge, there's no change. God uses the weight you're carrying to stretch your capacity, for what's coming next. Pressure is uncomfortable because it disrupts your rhythm. It forces you to confront parts of yourself that you'd rather avoid. It pushes you to evolve, to adapt, to stretch. The discomfort is divine. It's a signal that growth is happening. You might not feel progress, but purpose is being produced beneath the surface. The same way olives must be crushed to release oil and grapes must be pressed to produce wine, you must go through pressure to release your anointing. Without the pressing, the potential remains locked inside. When you're in a season of pressure, it's easy to want escape. You pray for relief, for breakthrough, for rest. But sometimes God doesn't remove the pressure because the process isn't finished. If He released you too soon, you'd lose the strength He's trying to build. Pressure trains you for what purpose requires. It shapes your mindset, deepens your empathy, and strengthens your character. It's not pleasant, but it's purposeful. Think about how a mother feels during labor. The pain intensifies. The pressure increases. But the pain isn't punishment. It's the signal that something new is being born. That's what it's like when God is birthing purpose in you. The pressure you're under isn't random. It's producing something. Every contraction, every hardship, every delay is pushing purpose closer to delivery. Don't curse the contractions. They're evidence that you're close to breakthrough. Pressure also brings clarity. When life squeezes you, you start to see what truly matters. You stop chasing what's shallow and start valuing what's eternal. The things that used to distract you lose their hold. Pressure focuses your faith. It removes excess and reminds you that you were made for more. Many times the reason God allows you to be pressed is to prune distractions. He knows you can't step into destiny carrying everything and everyone from your past, so He lets pressure separate what's essential from what's expendable. It's easy to see pressure as your enemy, but if you look closely, you'll find it's often your greatest teacher. It teaches patience, perseverance, and perspective. It shows you what faith really looks like when comfort is gone. It teaches you how to stand when standing feels impossible. It shows you how to praise when the promise hasn't yet come to pass. That kind of praise, the praise under pressure, carries a different power. It moves heaven because it comes from a place of pure trust. God never wastes pressure. Every ounce of pain has purpose behind it. Every sleepless night, every tear, every unanswered prayer. He's using it all to mold you. The very thing that feels like it's crushing you might be the thing that's creating you. You are being shaped into someone stronger, wiser, and more grounded than you've ever been. The weight you feel today is the strength you'll carry tomorrow. If you're under pressure right now, don't run from it. Lean into it. Ask God, what are you forming in me through this? Because when the pressure ends, you'll realize you've been transformed. You'll discover patience where there was once frustration, peace where there was once panic, faith where there was once fear. Pressure is the training ground for purpose. It produces the endurance, wisdom, and humility that your calling will require. The world might only see the finished product, but God values the process. Every great purpose story is forged in fire. Every anointed life has been pressed before it was released. What you call pressure, heaven calls preparation. And when the process is over, you'll emerge with power that can't be imitated. Power that was earned through perseverance. So, don't despise the pressure. Thank God for it. It's the sign that you're being shaped for significance. It means you're on the verge of becoming what you were created to be. The same hand that's pressing you is the hand that's protecting you. God knows exactly how much pressure to apply and when to lift it. He won't let it destroy you, only develop you. When the pressure lifts and purpose unfolds, you'll look back and realize that every crushing moment was a chapter in your creation. You'll see that nothing was wasted. Not the pain, not the silence, not the waiting. Every ounce of it was pushing you closer to destiny. The pressure was never meant to destroy you. It was designed to deliver you. Because in God's hands, pressure is not the end. It's the beginning of purpose. Every season of waiting will eventually lead to a season of revelation. What God hides in patience, He reveals in purpose. When you learn to stay steady and faithful in the slow seasons, you'll see that nothing you endured was wasted. Every tear, every trial, every moment of silence was setting the stage for something divine. What you thought was God's absence was actually His arrangement. What looked like stillness was strategy. What felt like delay was development. We often think the reward of patience is just getting what we prayed for. The job, the healing, the opportunity, the relationship. But the real reward of patience is who you become while you wait. It's the maturity that takes root, the strength that's forged in the struggle, and the depth of faith that only comes from walking with God through uncertainty. When you finally reach the place God promised, you'll realize that the blessing was never just the destination. It was the transformation that happened on the journey. When God brings revelation, it comes suddenly, but it's been prepared secretly. Overnight change is rarely overnight. It's the visible moment of a long invisible process. Like a tree that grows roots before it grows branches, your unseen growth sustains your visible blessing. The world will call it a breakthrough, but heaven calls it the result of faithful patience. The thing you've been believing for, praying for, waiting for. It's not lost, it's loading. And when it finally comes, you'll see why it took time. There's a holy rhythm to God's timing. He reveals at the right moment, never too soon and never too late. If He gave you what you wanted before you were ready, it would crush you. But when you've been refined by patience, you can carry what once would have broken you. That's why patience is a prerequisite for purpose. Because destiny demands durability. You can't sustain divine weight with immature strength. Patience teaches you how to walk with grace, how to endure with wisdom, how to handle favor without arrogance. When the revelation comes, it will make sense why certain doors stayed closed. You'll look back and thank God for every no, every delay, every detour. Because now you'll see that if those doors had opened too soon, they would have led you off course. Sometimes what you thought was rejection was actually redirection. God wasn't saying no, He was saying not yet. He was aligning the right people, preparing the right environment, orchestrating the perfect timing. What you thought was stagnation was synchronization. Heaven was working while you were waiting. Revelation is not always about receiving new information. Sometimes it's about gaining new perspective. The moment you see your pain through God's purpose, everything changes. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Thank you, Lord, for trusting me with this." You begin to understand that every struggle had an assignment. The betrayal taught you boundaries. The heartbreak taught you humility. The waiting taught you wisdom. The silence taught you how to hear His still small voice. Nothing was random. Everything was refining you. When God finally reveals what He was doing, it won't just bless you. It will bless others. Your story will become someone else's survival guide. The patience that produced character in you will become inspiration to someone else who's still waiting. That's how God multiplies purpose. He turns your private pressure into public power. He takes your hidden battles and turns them into visible breakthroughs that testify of his faithfulness. Revelation often comes after the moment you almost gave up. That's why it's so important not to quit in the middle. So many people abort their miracle because the pressure of waiting becomes too heavy. But if you could see what's on the other side of your patience, you'd understand why the enemy is fighting you so hard. The resistance is proof of release. The enemy doesn't attack what isn't valuable. If you're under intense pressure, it's because something powerful is about to emerge. When revelation finally arrives, it won't come quietly. It will announce itself in ways you can't deny. The doors that refuse to open will swing wide. The opportunities that passed you by will return. The people who walked away will watch what God does through you. Revelation brings restoration. It redeems lost time, heals old wounds, and elevates you to places your preparation built you for. But when it happens, remember this: it's not because you forced it, it's because you waited well. Waiting well means you didn't compromise your integrity while you were under pressure. It means you didn't try to manipulate outcomes to speed up what only God could do. It means you stayed faithful to the process even when it was painful. That kind of patience invites revelation that lasts, because what God builds through patience can't be shaken by circumstance. When God establishes you, no man can uproot you. Revelation doesn't just expose what God was doing, it reveals who you've become. You'll realize you're stronger, wiser, more grounded than you ever were before. You'll notice that things that once shook you now strengthen you. You'll walk differently, not with pride, but with peace, because patience has produced something unshakable inside you. You'll understand that progress isn't measured by speed, but by stability. You'll stop chasing instant results and start valuing lasting roots. One of the most beautiful things about revelation is how it rewrites your understanding of pain. What once hurt now heals others. What once broke you now builds others. What once seemed meaningless now carries divine meaning. You begin to see God's fingerprints all over the moments you once thought He had forgotten you. The same tears that watered your waiting season now water someone else's faith. That's when you realize you weren't just waiting for something, you were becoming something. In the end, patience doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes your spirit. It teaches you to trust God when you can't trace Him. It shifts your focus from outcomes to obedience. It teaches you that waiting with faith is never wasted time. Every second in the process is an investment into your future. When the revelation finally unfolds, it won't just answer your prayers. It will exceed them. Because God never just meets expectations, He multiplies them. So, when the season of revelation comes, stand still and marvel. Look at how far you've come, how much you've grown, how deeply you've trusted. Realize that the process you once resented was the very thing that qualified you. What you endured privately will now echo publicly as evidence of God's faithfulness. And you'll know, without a doubt, that every moment of waiting was worth it. Because patience was never about delay. It was about development. It was never about withholding. It was about preparing. God was never making you wait to frustrate you. He was using time to form you. And when revelation comes, you'll see the full picture, that His timing was perfect, His process was precise, and His plan was always working for your good. So hold on just a little longer. Stay patient in the process, because what's coming is not ordinary. It's extraordinary. What's about to unfold will make sense of every sleepless night in silent prayer. The revelation will not just prove that God heard you. It will prove that He was with you all along. And when it happens, you'll say, "Now I understand. The process was the proof, and patience was the path to my progress." In the end, the journey of patience is the journey of becoming. Every delay, every detour, every pressure, and every silent season was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to develop you. The process wasn't punishment. It was proof that God trusted you enough to prepare you. You may not have seen it while you were walking through it, but looking back, you'll realize that His hand was guiding you the whole time. Patience taught you what speed could never reveal. It stripped away pride, built endurance, and anchored your soul in faith. It showed you that progress isn't always loud. Sometimes it's hidden in the quiet work of transformation. It's in those moments when nothing seemed to move that God was moving the most. He was strengthening your spirit, aligning your steps, and shaping your story into something that reflects His glory. So now, as you stand on the other side of the process, understand this. The waiting was working for you. The pressure was producing purpose in you, and the process was proving yours progress. You are no longer the person who started this journey. You are wiser, stronger, and more grounded in God's timing. Don't despise the seasons that feel slow. They are sacred. Don't rush what heaven is still refining. It's not a delay, it's design. Because when God finally reveals what He's been preparing, it will happen so beautifully, so powerfully, that you'll say, "If I had to wait this long for this, it was worth it."